I think we
Okay,
can start.
okay,
Yeah.
I guess we'll start.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome, everybody. This is China Society, and we are being co-sponsored by the Chinese Historical Society of Southern California and the Textile Museum Associates of Southern California. I want to thank these two other groups for helping us out. China Society has sort of focused on things that are cultural related to China. And sometimes they are things that are very major, maybe architecture or travel, but in this case, it's something that is small. And it's also something that I was really curious about because many of the things that I hope our speaker is going to talk about are antiques, things that maybe aren't used too much today. And I was just wondering how they were used. Anyway, we're having a Zoom talk that is being recorded, and it is going to be by Brenda Lin. It's going to be on purses and containers from China and Taiwan that are from her mother's collection. And I think I was sort of fascinated because we had a talk on hairpins a year ago. And we had a little exhibit of hairpins at our store. And some of our members came to look at the hairpins and they said, well, did you know that Nancy Lin's sister is a noted collector of Chinese textiles? Maybe you should get her to give a talk. And so we approached Nancy, and through her good graces, we were able to contact her niece, Brenda Lin, and she gave us a wonderful talk on Chinese baby carriers. And then after that talk, I asked if she had another talk in line, and she said, oh yeah, my mother also collects Chinese purses. And this was of special interest to me because I have a little collection of Chinese purses, and I knew nothing about them. Essentially, they were things that I saw on my little buying trips, and they were things that we had no market for, but they were kind of interesting. So I would buy them and put them away, not knowing actually how they were used or what they were used for. And so today, I guess I'm really going to find out. And I think maybe we can start with our talk from Brenda. And if you have any questions, please put them in your chat box, and we will try to have a question and answer period following her presentation.
Great. Thank you so much, Bob, for the introduction. So I'm so happy to be here again tonight with the China Society. My name is Brenda Lin, as Bob mentioned, and I'm the archivist for the Christi Lan Children's Textile Collection, which is based here in Taipei, Taiwan, which is where I'm dialing in from. Tonight, I have the pleasure of speaking to you on the purses in my mother's collection. So let me just give a quick background about my mother. Ms. Lan was born in Taichung, Taiwan, and she majored in zoology and received her master's degree in biological sciences. In 1971, her husband, my father, Eric Lin, founded a children's apparel company in Taiwan called Les Enfants. And so she left the field of science to join him and served as vice president of Les Enfants for 16 years. My mother has always been a collector. I think the impulse to study, collect, and categorize has roots in her science background. She used to collect Guanyin statues, ceramic tea sets, Japanese lacquerware, Chinese calligraphy. She even collected, at one point, leather puppets and lunchboxes, all kinds of things. I think once you're a collector, you can't help but find things of interest. But because of her involvement in the children's apparel industry, she began to focus her collection on children's textiles. And most of these are from the mid-19th century, from China, from Taiwan, and some of them are from Southeast Asia. And the categories of her textile collection include baby hats, baby bibs, baby clothes, shoes, and of course, baby carriers, which was the subject of my last talk a year ago, in fact. So of my mother's textile collection, there's one category which is quite contained and very special, and that is her purse collection, which will be what I will focus on today. So the habit of putting things in a bag or container has been a practice for Chinese for thousands of years. The Book of Rites, Li Ji, which is more than 2,000 years old, notes that people carried purses to avoid bad odor or a sachet to chase away evil. They were not only used by women, which is a question that Bob had for me before the talk. In fact, purses were maybe in the beginning even more often used by men. So as you see in this painting, right? And these purses are kind of attached to this belt buckle and hanging down like that. There would be purses for all different kinds of functions that were embroidered with different kinds of motifs. And they would often, depending on what materials, what colors used, and what motifs were embroidered on these purses, they would denote your social rank and class. They were kind of used like external pockets, and it's not because Chinese clothing didn't have pockets. Chinese clothing often would have internal pockets, but these would be used as the external pockets, and as I said, as a way to denote somebody's social class and standing. And because bags were carried day and night and were virtually inseparable from their owners, they not only served a functional purpose, but they also became an emotional attachment for its wearer. During the Zhou dynasty, that's 1122 to about 256 BC, when a girl was about to get married, her mother would prepare a purse for her to wear around her waist as a reminder of the daily teachings of her parents. Here, this is not the best picture, but this is an illustration from the very famous novel Dream of the Red Chamber. So this came out in the Qing dynasty. So here is an illustration from the 90th chapter, and here you see two women, two ladies inside the house, and one lady is giving another a purse. And from my understanding, one of the kind of servant girls was given a red jacket to kind of help her stay warm during the colder winter months. And as a token of gratitude, she returned the favor with a purse. So later on in the Qing dynasty, actually giving purses as gifts became common practice, as is illustrated here. During the Southern and Northern dynasties, that's 220 to 589, it was popular practice to gather the morning dew from the leaves of cypress trees, collecting the dewdrops into a purse and using the liquid as an eye drop to sharpen one's eyesight. These kinds of purses were called chenglu nang. There were even purses made in order to capture mist and clouds from the high mountain tops. I find this idea to be quite poetic, the idea that you can capture something that is almost uncapturable, and then to even sit down and create a container to hold these things. Here is a story of a very skilled archer. This guy, his name is Geng Ying, whose wife was known to make purses that could capture clouds. Now, her purses were very special because they had clasps that could open and close. And the reason why they were very useful in capturing clouds was because once the cloud was captured, you could close the clasp and secure the cloud inside. And sure enough, when she returned home and opened the purse, the cloud inside would still be as white as cotton. And the little puff of cloud was merely the size of a cocoon. You see it here. That's a little cocoon cloud. So as I mentioned before, by the Qing dynasty, that's 1644 to 1911, purses embroidered with auspicious motifs had become a popular gift item, as well as a practical utilitarian tool, not only for high officers, but also among commoners, and by this time among women. So today I will be sharing some of the purses in my mother's collection of various shapes, sizes, and functions. And I hope that you not only learn a little bit about the meaning behind the embroidered motifs, but that you reconsider how we carry things and what we choose to hold close to our bodies. Okay, so we'll start with the square-shaped purse. You can think of this square-shaped purse like a shirt pocket. So the purse would have two sides and then a flap, so that when you lift the flap, there will be kind of a cavity inside. Sometimes then you can also pass through a string through here and then tie it around the waist. So this square-shaped purse, you see the embroidery here is very fine. This is probably done with a split thread, and it's a satin stitch to get that really shiny sheen on it. And you see a horse carrying a coral, and while walking, this is water. These are waves. And this symbolizes the treacherous sea routes of the Silk Road. And the red coral, this is a red coral on the back of the horse, is a reference to one of the goods that China frequently traded with Southeast Asia and the Middle East. Okay, here's another square-shaped purse. And here is a very famous story about Liu Hai and the three-legged toad. So Liu Hai is the name of this little boy. And here's the three-legged toad. You see he has three legs, 1, 2, and 3. So the story goes that Liu Hai has his beloved pet three-legged toad, very special. And one day the toad jumped into the well, and Liu Hai didn't know how to get him to come back up again. And then he remembered that this toad really liked shiny objects. And so Liu Hai came up with the idea to string, these are strings, and then these little round circles are coins. So he strung coins along a string and kind of dangled them into the well. And sure enough, when the toad saw the shiny objects flickering at the top of the well, the toad then bit onto the coin, and then Liu Hai was then able to kind of fish his pet toad back up. This, I think a lot of us, we will go to Japanese restaurants and we often see that little cat at the front of the restaurant with the paw going like this. That's the Zhao Cai Mao, the cat that kind of invites wealth. So the equivalent in Taiwan and China, you often see is a toad biting on a coin. And that has its origins in this very story that is depicted here on this purse. And another fun fact actually is anytime you see the story of Liu Hai and the toad, you'll notice that he has a very special hairstyle, that Liu Hai is known for his bangs. And so the fun fact is, so this is kind of depicted here. Fun fact is that Liu Hai in Chinese is how we call bangs, the fringe of your hair. Next, we'll look at some oval waist purses. These will probably be about the same size as the square-shaped purses. And kind of used similarly, except they don't have the flap. So in this one, you'll see, this is a qilin. This is a very kind of mythical, auspicious, and powerful animal in Chinese mythology. And the qilin is known to bring babies. So kind of like the stork in Western culture. So in this kind of embroidery, you'll see this is the little baby that's being brought, and then he's being accompanied and chaperoned by a fairy here. And then here, you'll see this flower here is the xuan grass, which is a grass that symbolizes filial piety and honors mothers. Okay, and then the next one here is another oval-shaped purse. And here you'll probably often see this motif in lots of embroidery, two lions and they're playing with a ball. And this brings blessings of joy and also hopes for high official ranks. And here, the special thing about this one is that you see this is an amber buckle here at the top, which would be a good way either to be kind of as a closing for this purse or as a way to connect it to somebody's waist. Okay. Next one here, you see this is a young boy, and he's standing on top of a lotus root. See, this is the lotus flower, and the lotus is here, and he's holding this one osmanthus flower. So in Chinese, lotus is lian hua, lian, and lian, you know, Chinese people love wordplay. So lian also means consecutive. And he's holding the osmanthus flower, which is called gui hua. And so there's a saying in Chinese that is lian lian zheng gui zi. So it's a hope for somebody to have lots of kids and maybe preferably boy children. Okay. Next, we will look at a different kind of purse. These are fanny packs. Well, this is what I would like to call them, what I call them anyway, as fanny packs. So some of you might be familiar with fanny packs. They're in modern day, they look like this, and they're very kind of utilitarian and functional, and you wear them around your waist, and it's got lots of zippers, and you put your whatever you need for easy access. And this was really popular in the 80s. They're coming back in again. But the truth is, fanny packs were used in China way before the 1980s. And they're actually called 抱复合包, which literally means the purse that hugs the abdomen. So they're kind of waist bags. So you'll see in this fanny pack, right? So it's this shape, very similar to this shape. And then a strap would be threaded through here and tied around the waist. This one is a beautiful one where you see this is a reindeer here holding something in his mouth. And this is actually a lingzhi. And this is a sacred fungus that promises long life. And this reindeer is standing next to a pine tree. And this is a pine tree because they're evergreens, which is also a symbol of long life. Here's another fanny pack, and here you actually see on the side the loop where you would thread a ribbon or a sash through. And then here you can kind of make out the opening of the fanny pack. But here, this one, you have a depiction of 4 children playing in the garden, and each of them, they all have different hairstyles and really sweet expressions on their faces. Very kind of innocent, and they're all wearing different outfits, which is really really adorable. And you see them playing in the garden, and there's 2 roosters here. Roosters in Chinese are called gongji, and this is kind of a symbol because gongming is kind of the way that you talk about a rooster's call, but gongming is also a reference to having high official rank. So, you know, this is very important to Chinese people. And then this is a peony flower, which is also a symbol of wealth and elegance. Okay. This is another waist purse in a very special shape. This is the place where you would kind of pass through the sash to to attach it to your waist. But this is in the shape of an ingot, a gold ingot. And then this is kind of how the sash would have been passed through, like this. And because this would be held close to the body, another way that people referred to it was a 贴身包. And again, we see embroidery of lots of flowers. That's always a symbol of life and beauty. Okay. So next we're going to look at something called the dalian, which I like to refer to as like a removable pocket. In clothing cultures, clothing across cultures, pockets are often a locus of gender politics. So in Western clothing, pockets were sewn directly into garments starting only in the 17th century, but they were only designed as part of clothing for men because women were expected to stay at home. And so there was no need for women to have to carry money or small items or tools. The truth is, I think that this discriminatory design continues to this day. So I don't know if we have any women in the audience, but you often, when you buy slacks or pants, our pockets are always very shallow, or sometimes just for decorative use only. So even though traditional Chinese clothing didn't have pockets per se, or they did, there were internal pockets, but men had all sorts of containers, right, for different objects, as I had mentioned earlier. So objects like money, glasses, writing utensils, for tobacco, fans, pocket knives, chopsticks, watches, ear picks, etc. And they would hang all these off of their belts. And the types of objects, again, dangling from their belts would also show off their kind of social class and status. And meanwhile, women used smaller, usually circular purses. So the closest thing to a pocket in Chinese dress was this dalian, this removable pocket. And the shape is usually a long rectangle with 2 pockets on either end. The smaller ones could be hung from the waist, while larger ones could be kind of slung over the shoulder with one pocket on one side and the other one on the other. So these are 2 smaller dalians, you see, and these would be kind of attached to somebody's waist, the belt. This one has, you see this repeating motif on the top. I don't know if anyone can tell what that is, but these are bats. These are bats, and then on the bottom, this is the character for fu, which is blessings. So again, because Chinese people love wordplay and homonyms, bats are a symbol of blessing because bats in Chinese is bian fu, which sounds just like this character fu for blessing. So Bob was asking me what I do in addition to kind of looking after my mother's textile collection. I actually am a writer, and I teach creative writing in the upper school at the high school level. And we often look at graphic narratives, and we explore the relationship between text and images. And this dalian to me is really fun because I feel like it predates a lot of graphic novels in that it kind of shows you the direct correlation between text and image that when we read things, we automatically make. Here on the right side is another small dalian, and this one is interesting and different in that it uses glass beads, beadwork, in the embroidery of this butterfly. And again, these beads probably would have been traded from Central Asia or Europe. Here's another small dalian that depicts a very well-known story. This is the story of Li Yu Tiao Long Men. So that is the story of the carp or the koi. So here's the koi jumping through the dragon gate. And if the koi is successful in jumping through the dragon gate, then this koi fish will become a dragon. So legend has it So this is the very famous story and legend. And in fact, this Chinese myth is based on natural occurrences, which I think most myths are, right? Long ago, villagers who lived near the Dragon Gate waterfall along the Yellow River in China observed carp jumping through the gushing waterfall. And they were astounded by the carp's display of courage and perseverance, and imagined that the fish who made it through the waterfall would morph into dragons on the other side. And so from then on, this myth has been used as a metaphor for metamorphosis, and when embroidered in textiles, acts as a hope for its wearer to become powerful and successful in life. If anybody has young children who are into Pokemon, they will know that this Pokemon is Gyarados, is a fish, but so a special thing about Pokemons is that they go through evolutions. And so this Pokemon will evolve into a dragon. So obviously this is based on this very kind of popular myth. Okay, now we'll look at some purses that come in really unique shapes. When I'm writing with my students, when we're learning about poetry, we often talk about different poetic forms as containers, right? So I often think of my mother's purses as different kind of poetic forms. So these are some of them. Okay, so this shape is in the shape of a pipa, which is a stringed Chinese instrument. And this is embroidered with flowers, really delicately with flowers. And this is a cicada. I think Chinese people really love things in nature that exemplify or symbolize metamorphosis. And cicadas is one such animal, as are butterflies, which we often see, as well as the previous story that we were just learning about, the carp metamorphosizing into a dragon. So this pipa, you might wonder, how does it open? The opening is on the side here. And of course, the opening is very, very small. So probably this purse was used for tiny little notes. Sometimes I like to imagine maybe they're used for love letters. Okay. Now, this is in the shape of a gourd. A gourd in Chinese is called hulu, which is a very popular shape and also a popular motif because, again, here's a bit of wordplay. Hulu sounds like fulu, and fulu also means well wishes and good tidings. And here we see, again, the butterfly, which is a symbol of metamorphosis, but also sometimes they're used, and in particular because it's kind of embroidered on this gourd-shaped little purse. It also has a meaning of long life because there is a very kind of elegant term to refer to somebody about older than 70 or 80, which is called mao die. And so that die sounds like hu die. And so this is also a kind of a term of respect for somebody who's older. And then here on the bottom, you see this is a bergamot. This is a fo shou. So this is a kind of also a citrus that's really fragrant. And anything that kind of evokes the Buddha has elegance and wisdom associated with it. Here we see, oh, I'm sorry, I just want to go back to the gourd again. A lot of times we'll see gourd-shaped purses, and these are probably used for tobacco. Back then, tobacco was considered a kind of, a medicine of sorts, something to kind of a tonic to help your health. And so as you see, like the opening probably around here is also small, but just kind of large enough for your two fingers to kind of reach inside and pinch some tobacco. Okay, so here, this is a vase-shaped purse. And again, wordplay. Vase in Chinese is hua ping. And ping sounds just like ping for ping an, which means peace. And here again, we see the very familiar butterfly. And maybe this is tree of life, probably, and peonies. And then in this butterfly, you notice the wings here is kind of embroidered in that looks like clouds. And these clouds are known as 如意 clouds. So they're kind of like as you wish clouds, a wish for you to attain whatever it is your heart desires. Next, we'll look at sachets. So sachets, also known as 香囊, usually come in smaller sizes, and they're actually a kind of 荷包, a kind of purse. And they would have been filled with an assortment of spices or fragrances to, I guess, kind of like a perfume for the wearer. It's a fragrant purse. So this is a 香囊 in a really, really special shape. This is the shape of a cicada. And again, the cicada is really special because it is a symbol of metamorphosis. And this cicada is really delicately embroidered. And you see that even when you flip the wing, that the underside is embroidered using a different color thread. Here's another sachet, and the purse itself is in the shape of a butterfly, you see here. And then what's special here is that there is a butterfly and that's carved out of wood, and this wood is probably boxwood, which is often, which is huangyang. It's a kind of wood that's used for coffins because of its durability. This is a heart-shaped sachet that you probably often see. And before the talk, was chatting with Bob, and I think he has a couple that are in this shape. And sometimes you see how it's stiffer up top here. It's because paper might have been kind of woven into it to kind of give it its stiffer shape and that gathering effect. And again, with this heart-shaped sachet, we see the butterflies, and they're kind of flitting about around a flower. And, you know, regardless of this shape, we might think of this as very feminine. I just wanted to show that men would use sachets often as well. And as I mentioned earlier, men would often kind of hang multiple purses of different sizes and shapes for different functions off their belts. And it would denote different ranks and class. And so sometimes it would look like this, right? So you would have the gourd, right, for your tobacco, a heart-shaped purse for your fragrances and spices, dalian maybe for some notes, and then your eyeglass case, which I'll show. My mother has a couple of these as well for your glasses, and here's a fan holder. So that's what it would look like hanging from your waist. So now we'll look at different purses that were used for different functions. Here is a bell-shaped key holder. Oops, sorry. This is a bell-shaped key holder, and you can see each of these. I think this is a better picture, but you can see that in the embroidery, each of these is a French knot. So it gives it a very kind of 3D look. And this is what it might look like with the key kind of strung through it.
Oh,
Does somebody have a question? Okay. And then here is a glasses holder. And so you can imagine, so the glasses would have, here's one side, two sides, and then on the back side, it would have two more sides. And so the embroidery of the Chinese characters would spell out, or would be a 4-character idiom. And in this case, it's 延年益寿. Again, it's a wish for longevity and good health. Here is a purse. You see the size is squarish, and if you could feel it, there is a kind of a stiffness to it, and that's because this was used for a compact mirror, a small mirror. And this embroidery, you see this, nowadays we call this an ombre effect, this gradation effect. This is a painstaking, dyeing that people used to do. And here, dangling from the tassel, you see this. This is a compass. Here is a silk picture frame, and you see here is a fish swimming next to willow branches, and you often see red and green together in Chinese embroidery for this really rich, striking contrast. This is a chopsticks holder, and you'll see that the back end here, the backboard here, is in the shape of kind of like an arrow, and then this is a peony, and you would put the chopsticks in here. Okay, and next, this is a calligraphy brush holder. So on one side, you see birds, it's springtime and flowers, and on the other side is a poem, a poetic line. And this is a way that you can tell that the person who used this brush holder was part of the literati, is very highly educated. And similarly, this is a holder for what they were known as rhyme books, or maybe poems, slips of poetry. And then you see that all along the edge here is a whorl-like pattern. And whorl-like patterns you often see in Chinese embroidery that sometimes symbolizes water, symbolizes things repeating itself. Life is, in a cycle, right? Things always kind of happening over and over again. And here you see a gourd. I love the idea of having a container, especially for poems. I think that's really beautiful. Here you see a book bag. So this is a silk book bag for a young child, and it's probably from the 1900s, and it's made of very high quality silk and intricate, very fine embroidery. And you could tell that this was during a time when Western influence was very prevalent, because the two kids here are depicted playing a cricket-like, some kind of game that has Western influence. And then I'm going to show you the detail of the strap here. So this is these 4 images put together form a Chinese idiom. And so this is cong, which is spring onion, and cong sounds like congming, which means intelligent. Ming, this is a fireball. And so this congming, that means smart or intelligent. Ling, this is a ling jiao, is a kind of, gosh, I don't really know how to describe it, but it's a something you can eat here, and it looks like a mustache. And ling jiao, and then li, this is a pear, which is li zi, so sounds like li. So cou ming ling li is a Chinese idiom that means somebody who's smart and agile. So it makes sense to have this. You see, it's on the handle of the book bag. So it makes sense to have this for a little child's book bag, in the hopes that this child will be smart and agile. This one, oh, I wish I had a picture showing. There's an opening on the bottom here, and this is a tea cozy. So you would open it and then kind of cap it onto your teapot to keep your teapot warm. And the embroidery here is filled with all the things that you might find in the study of somebody that is highly educated. So for example, There's like prayer beads. There is a zither, which is a stringed instrument. And not only do you have to cultivate the mind, you also have to cultivate the physical body, right? So there's spears for somebody to practice their martial arts. And then I love this one. This is known as the fly whisk. And in Taoism, it's often used to kind of, you know, to whisk away flies, but it's also a metaphor for whisking away impure or, you know, distracting thoughts. And then, of course, I love that, you know, there's a balance, right? So you have to study, you have to work on your physical health, but you also, these little wine cups and teacups, you also have to take care of kind of your well-being, right? And sit down every now and then to have a cup of tea or maybe have a cup of wine to relax. So this is the tea cozy. Okay. Next, this is one of my favorites in my mother's collection. These are a pair of ear covers, and they're in the shape of a heart. And embroidered all along the border here are the instruments of the 8 immortals, the Ba Xian. They all have different instruments that kind of show their special powers. I love this because I think we often think of you know, matters of the heart. When we think of matters of the heart, we think of this organ in our chest. But I actually think the ear is an often overlooked sense that really can show somebody that we care. And so I love the idea of having something to contain the ear to protect it. So that's what this is. Okay, so lastly, I'm going to share some purses that are from my mother's collection from indigenous cultures. You'll notice that there's some similarities, but also some differences in the embroidery methods and then also in their embroidery motifs. So in China, there are about 55 different minority cultures. And the Miao tribe numbers about 9 million, and they mostly reside in Guizhou in southwestern China. They're known for their highly technical skills in embroidery, as some of you saw if you were at the last talk on baby carriers. Now, this is a hand-woven bag from the Miao tribe, and it's a little bit different, or it's very different from what you might be familiar as a Miao aesthetic. So this bag is made from hemp fibers and is very practical and of course, very durable. This is a waist purse from the Bai tribe. Now the Bai tribe, the population is about 1.9 million people. And because of where the Bai tribe live in Yunnan, where there are all types of flowers that bloom in different seasons, this one really showcases all the different flowers that bloom in their area. So there's a saying there actually that 家家流水，户户养花, that every family and household has water running through it, and every family has cultivates their own flowers. And in fact, the Bai tribe, they have a flower festival every lunar February 14th, where each family will put out a different kind of flower pot in front of their house, making the streets vibrant with color. So this is a similar, just like this waist purse. This is a similar waist purse or fanny pack from the Yao tribe, which numbers about 2.7 million. The background, as you can see here, is indigo dye. And then this white area, you can see that's the wax indigo dye. And then these stitches are, this is kind of like a quilted stitch. And then the vibrant kind of middle panel here, you'll see that here's a rat and a monkey and some flowers. And then here is some gimped embroidery using some silver pieces. This is a fanny pack from a waist pack from the Miao tribe. And this is also in the shape kind of an ingot, which we saw earlier. And on the bottom part, you'll see this is a tilted flower vase, and then there's a flower coming out from it. And again, this is heavily influenced by the Han culture, where the flower vase, the hua ping, has the same sound as ping an for peace. So there's the play on words there. This is another Miao purse, also heavily influenced by Qing Dynasty culture, you know, because it looks just like the way men used to hang and dangle different purses of different shapes from their waistband. So this is the same thing here. And you'll see that here's a butterfly motif, lots of butterflies. And if some of you were at the talk, the baby carrier talk, you might remember that the butterfly is a very, very important, is an important symbol for the Miao culture because they believe that they are direct descendants of the butterfly mama. And here is a drawstring bag, also from the Miao tribe. And I don't know if you can see, there's a bird down here. It's the bird that helped the butterfly mama hatch her eggs, from which the Miao people then eventually came from. Here is a bag from the Dong tribe, and the Dong tribe, they number about 2.9 million in population, and they really like to use black and blue in their embroidery, as is evidenced by this purse. And this purse uses some applique. You see these pieces are probably cut from some other, you know, some other textile and then appliqued onto this purse. And the way this purse was worn was probably a sash would be passed through here, and it might either be worn around the waist or it might be worn around the neck, and then might be, you know, might hang just right, maybe just right in front of somebody's body so they can easily access whatever is inside. So this is a beetle net bag from the Ame tribe in Taiwan. There are currently 16 recognized indigenous tribes in Taiwan, and the Ame population numbers about 200,000 right now. So you'll notice from this long strap of the beetle net bag shows us that this bag is probably worn diagonally across the chest. During the harvest, the Ame culture will always invite young, able-bodied men to come help different families during the harvest time. And during this time is when young, unwedded female members of the family would scope out the guys that they might fancy. And on the last night of the harvest, there would usually be a really big party, and this is when the young women would give their beetle net bag to whoever it is they fancy. So you can tell from this story that the Ame tribe is a matriarchal culture. So in fact, the children will always take after the name of their mother. And so, of course, it makes sense that the women would take the lead in matters of the heart. And you'll see here, the shape is really interesting and different. And the embroidery, this is actually cross stitch. All of this is cross stitch, and these are kind of octagonal shaped flowers that that denote, you know, abundance and life. So this is the last purse in my mother's collection that I wanted to share, and I'd like to close maybe a little bit unconventionally, but I want to invoke a book that was recently published by the artist Myra Coleman, and the book is called Women Holding Things. So in it, she paints pictures of women holding all kinds of different things, including purses, of course, but she really focuses on how we use the verb to hold. And I'll just read a little bit from the back of the book. This is how she opens the book, actually. So she says, "What do women hold? The home and the family, and the children and the food, the friendships, the work of the world, and the work of being human, the memories and the troubles and the sorrows and the triumphs and the love. So another word for to hold is to carry, right? So we can carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. We carry our children. We can carry each other. We can carry a tune. We can carry a secret. And I bring this up to highlight that these purses are not merely accessories or decoration. They're a metaphor for the things we carry close to us. It was customary in China that on the day of New Year's Eve that the emperor would meet with his highly ranked officials and servants and give small embroidered purses to each of them. And inside would be filled with little charms or maybe pieces of gold and silver. And I just think this was such a thoughtful expression of goodwill and gratitude. So I think if we put as much thought into how we carry things as the purses in this collection that this shows us, we might be even more thoughtful about what we choose to put inside. Thank you so much for your time. And I guess now if anyone has any questions or anything that they'd like to share, we can open it up.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
Did the fashion of wearing purses, did it decline at the end of the Qing dynasty, or was it the influence of Western clothing, or because you don't see people wearing these now, and sometimes you don't even know what they were for?
Yeah, I think so. I think for sure. And I think as definitely really with the Industrial Revolution, right? I think utilitarianism and practicality started to trump kind of the way that this kind of aesthetic that we used to have. I think for sure people then were so influenced by Western culture and an industrial culture too. So yeah, you see it much less and less. Yeah, that's a great question.
Um, I was also wondering, I saw some other bags that were labeled tobacco pouches, and I'm just wondering, these things are material. Don't they get dirty with tobacco powder or whatever on the inside? Was the tobacco essentially just ground up like I mean it wasn't quite like snuff, but what was it? It wasn't leaves either. Was it shredded or?
I think it's like shredded, dried leaves-ish, like that. Just like the sachets that were filled with the spices and good smelling things. I think because they're dried, so there's not so much moisture in it. So I don't think that I guess material is much more sensitive to moisture, right, and humidity. So things that are dry, I think, are generally okay. And that's why, for example, my mother's collection is always kind of kept in this storage room that's climate controlled because it is so sensitive to humidity, especially because living here in Taiwan where the humidity is so high. So yeah, to answer your question, I think tobacco and other spices that would be dried, and so it wouldn't necessarily be harmful to the material, as harmful as something that would be more wet.
Well, I mean, you see these perfumers or whatever made out of jade and other materials that really are non-absorbent. They have hose and whatever to let the fragrance circulate. But when you have something in a silk bag, does it really deliver the aroma or whatever you want to, or did you have to open the bag and put it up to your nose, or?
I think it really does deliver because, especially because the way fabric is so porous. So actually in Taiwan, we still do every May is the Dragon Boat Festival. And one of the practices that we do here is that we will make xiangnang, actually xiangbao, with our kids, and we'll fill, silk little pouches with things that smell good. And you can definitely smell it through the fabric. So yeah. In that sense, I suppose fabric is a good container for something because it is porous, and so you could smell the fragrance through it. Yeah.
We had another speaker who was talking about rank badges. And I was looking at the horse that you had at the beginning of the program, and he said that that might have been a seahorse, not a regular horse, because the what you called is carrying
Coral.
coral.
Mm-hmm.
He said no, those were flames, and they use flames on the animals in the rank badges that are not that are mythical or heavenly. And so
Oh.
he said
Mm-hmm.
that that was a seahorse, which was heavenly in that it had flames coming out from the legs.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm I think that's highly probable. I'm sure. I think that, as I learn more and more about all these different motifs in my mother's collections and about Chinese mythology and symbolism, is that what's kind of most fascinating and beautiful is that there's so many things are interchangeable, right? And that's what I love about it is that, Chinese and also indigenous cultures, mythical animals are absolutely possible, right? And then kind of what you're saying about, I've not heard that before, but I absolutely believe it that, a seahorse with a flame could represent something and could kind of also be interchangeable with an animal that we are familiar with. Um, I think that it just shows how creative and playful kind of human interpretation and creativity is and can be. So yeah, I'll look into that. I hadn't heard that before.
Um, I was wondering, did they have purses for snuff bottles? Because
Oh, yeah.
we've seen, I mean, I belong to a snuff bottle society, and sometimes they have what looks like a perfumer or a aromatic um, purse. Sometimes they would say, "Oh no, that's a purse for a snuff bottle." Because if you were, how would you carry a snuff bottle other than in a purse?
Oh yeah, I can imagine. There must be. I mean, as you can see from just this, there is a purse for everything. So yeah, there must be.
One of the thing I also have some archer rings, and I think I
Mm-hmm.
have a little container that holds an archer ring. But the one thing that I'm wondering about is that it has like a string that attaches the cover to the archer ring to the holder, and it goes right through the archer's ring. So that would mean if you wanted to use the archer's ring, you'd probably have to take
Take
off
it off.
the person to take out the archer's ring and then put it back in.
Yeah. Yeah, you probably would.
It doesn't seem to be all that practical, but I guess maybe it was
Yeah,
for show.
exactly. I think practicality was subservient to, wanting to show off, status and class and wealth. So yeah.
The other thing I had a question about was your chopstick holder.
Mm-hmm.
That chopstick holder looks like something you'd put on a wall, not on your.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I mean, it wasn't a purse.
Yeah, I don't think it's technically a purse. It's a container. It's more a container. And I do think that you might have put it on a wall. Yeah.
Because you see the chopstick holders with a knife, those tend to be made out of wood or wood and metal. And I guess they put it on a belt, but they weren't fabric.
Mm-hmm. And also because that particular one is open, it didn't close.
Mhm.
So I agree with you. I don't think it would have been made to be dangled from somebody's waist belt.
Unless maybe somebody went on a picnic or something like that, and they had needed a lot of chopsticks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was also wondering, sometimes you see, metal items that are for grooming and whatever, and they weren't actually used in a purse. You would hang them from your neck. Um, did they use small things for that in a purse also? Like they have tweezers and
Yes, yes, they
ear
have.
pick and
Yeah, exactly. Ear purses for ear picks and tweezers, toiletry items, right? Definitely, definitely. There's yeah, something for everything, or like the one that we saw in the slide earlier, for the small mirror. Um, you know, I think there's just and I think in a way too, I think Chinese people love abundance. So it's almost like the more you have hanging off of more kind of containers you have hanging off of you, the better. The more things you have, right? So, yeah.
but it still seems that people didn't really carry that many different things on them on their person. I mean, it isn't like where you can find the
I,
gigantic bag where everything but the kitchen sink is in it.
yes. I guess the difference is people used to separate it, right? The way I'm trying to think of I was gonna pull up that slide from before, but now people just have one big bag. Yeah, like you
Mhm.
said. Um, but there's the picture of how it might look, right? All the different kinds of purses dangling like that. But now we put all this in one bag. Yeah.
I know before people used to say, "Oh, Chinese would have things in their sleeve," but I just can't imagine how things would be fit in the sleeve, and instead they would use purses.
Right. Well, I know when I was a little kid and we would watch, period drama pieces. And people would always, characters, because the sleeves would be very long and they would
Mhm.
always produce things from their sleeve. But I
Oh,
suppose yeah, but I suppose your question is how would they fasten it, right? When your arm is
yeah.
down, by your side, how do things not fall out if the sleeves are so big? I don't know. That's something that I'd have to let me find out, like if there are internal pockets inside sleeves, maybe. Um, maybe. I don't know. But I remember that distinctly, that somebody would always produce like a scroll or something from inside their sleeve.
Um, last week, my cousin brought to the store some things that belonged to her mother. And one of them was a Chinese dress, I guess, or robe. And I was really surprised. She came to this country in 1937.
Mm-hmm.
And when I opened you know how the button on the side, and so there's a flap that goes over, it wraps around the body, and it buttons on the right side. And I was surprised to see that when you open this, there was a little pocket on the inside, the part that didn't show. But I, I can see someone using that as an internal pocket, but where were the other internal pockets? I mean, how did you access them?
I think that other intro there would be really inside, and it wouldn't be things that you would have to access, in public, right? The way we do now, where we
Oh,
would just reach into our pockets for something, but it would be something, that you would keep hidden close to your body. Um, like what? I don't know. A secret letter, maybe? I don't know.
um, oh, why don't you tell us a little bit about the book that you've donated to the Historical Society and
Oh,
our society?
yes. Yes. Okay. So I don't have a copy with me here, but yes, my aunt donated a box of my book, which is titled Wealth Ribbon, Taiwan Bound, America Bound. And it's a book of personal essays that I wrote 20 years ago. And they are essays about growing up in Taiwan, about my family's relationship to the US, and generally about cultural identity and family relationships. And I was sharing with Bob earlier that even though I wrote it 20 years ago, I teach writing at the American school here in Taiwan, and I find that a lot of the issues that I felt 20 years ago are still quite relatable, right? The idea of having to straddle cultures and straddle languages and being in between, just being in between, right? That lots of our kids these days um, grapple with the same issues. So that's what that book is about, um, and I appreciate your society's receiving this box of books, and I hope that it'll be interesting at least, and maybe useful to somebody who comes across it.
The other question I have on these costumes is are the belts, because I've never actually seen a belt that you wear around that hangs purses from them. I, I mean, I have what they call jade belt hooks, but I still don't know how they keep the belt hook and the belt around your waist and not slipping down, because it's not held tight and you don't seem to have elastic. Thing seems to be fairly loose. Uh, and the robes that you see don't have buttons or something that hold up the belt. How's the belt actually suspended?
I think that, well, I imagine anyway that the belt is not kind of freestanding, like not just a sash, and it's actually holding up your pants, right? I do think it is also an you know like an an embellishment of this outfit, right? And it would be a part of it, and then and it's not actually holding anything up. It's
But
um, more that things would
what
be.
holds up the belt?
I think it's a part. It's probably sewn. It's probably sewn onto the fabric itself, is my guess.
It's just that I have some robes and I have some women, well, I don't know, I guess women's robes, and they never seem to have a place to attach a belt to.
There are no belt loops, you mean?
Yeah, belt loops, or
Hmm.
and they don't look like a belt was
Some,
sewn on them.
yeah. I don't know. That's another question I'll have to follow up on. But I just
Does,
assume that,
does,
yeah,
does your mother's collection have belts?
she does not have belts. Yeah, that is a
Oh,
good question.
well, let me see. I
Yeah.
um um Felicia, is she there? Were there any other questions?
I didn't get any.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess maybe later people will think of questions and they can pass on the questions to me, and I can probably contact Brenda to find
Yes,
out if she has some answers.
definitely. And then I will also follow up on your questions. And then if I have answers, I'll pass them back to you.
Okay, well, I want to thank you. I really thought this was a fascinating talk, and you really answered some of the questions that I I had always thought about, or actually had just begun to think about since you had this talk. And did do you see this type of purse that
Yes.
it has all these compartments in here?
Yeah.
What's this used for?
I think little notes and maybe, I don't know, maybe later on bills, maybe, but notes, papers.
And oh, I guess it has a little opening here, I guess, where the belt would go through. But
Yeah,
I mean it's expandable, and that's kind of interesting.
it is. Well, thank you so much
Okay.
for having me, and I hope we can. My mom has other things in her collection, so if people are interested, we can gather again sometime in the future, and then I will follow up on your questions, Bob,
Well,
and send you answers.
when is this catalog that you're doing for your mom going to be finished or ready or available?
It's ongoing. Yeah, working on it. Yeah.
But it's going to be a digital
It's all,
catalog.
yeah, it'll all be digitized and hopefully we can make it available to people. But for the time being, if there's interest, I do have a website. Let me
Oh,
just pull that up. Here is the address, and you can always go there to look at some of the key pieces in her collection. So it's this one on the bottom here, lesenfantstextile.org.
oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Um, well, I have a few more announcements, but I want to thank you first because I thought this was really a fascinating program.
Thank you.
The announcements we have are that we're still thinking about this trip to San Diego to visit the Chinese uh, Historical Museum. Like I told you in our bulletin, I plan to be there between Christmas and New Year, and probably will go see the museum on Friday. If anybody wants to join me, please let me know. Or if you want to visit sometime in January, well, that would also be fine. And the other thing is that our other co-sponsor, the Textile Museum Associates, she emailed me that this is the Asia Week in New York period, and that they are going to have a talk on an opium exhibit that is ongoing at Harvard Museum. And there was another program which features the uh, exhibit at the Cleveland Museum, which deals with the treasures from the lower Yangzhou River area. And it's supposed to be a fabulous exhibit. And the talk was very good, and you can also see it on YouTube. And finally, our other co-sponsor, the Chinese Historical Society, is having an open house this Saturday from 1 o'clock to 7 o'clock. They're hoping to welcome any of you who want to come. There'll be refreshments and exhibits, and hopefully everybody can get a nice talk together. So I hope that you also might take this opportunity to see the Chinese Historical Society facilities that are on Bernard Street. I think that's all for now, and I hope that you will come again for our next program. Thank you again.